So, those of you who've not met me before, my name's Mark Davis. I am Sales Director for Blue Apple Education. And I'm going to start just by explaining to you why I'm qualified to talk to you about marketing your mat for growth. So, Blue Apple Education, we're a creative design company. We work exclusively within education, so all of our clients are schools and colleges, multi-academy trusts. And the best way to think about us is we provide everything that you guys need to market and communicate yourselves. We've certainly worked with some of you in the room, and I know some of you may not have seen me before. So I spend a lot of my time at events, well actually not at events like this, because it's been about 2 years since I stood up in a room, but it's really nice to be back. But I've been online for 2 years talking around these topics and helping multi-academy trusts and schools with all sorts of different issues and problems and challenges that they face with marketing and communicating themselves. I sit on the MATTA Advisory Board. So MATTA is a reasonably new, the Multi-Academy Trust Association. It's free to join for any MAT. And the MATTA Advisory Board, we meet periodically and basically we offer free advice on all sorts of different topics that MATs need help with. And I also host something called Out of the Blue with my colleague David here. So there are over 40 episodes of Out of the Blue now. Again, it's a free resource for anybody you can access, and we talk about all sorts of different issues around school marketing and academy marketing and other associated things as well. So you can find details of that on the Blue Apple Education website, and as I say, it's completely free to look at that. I also host every week online masterclass courses. They're completely free to attend, and again, we talk about different topics and I give lots of hints and tips and advice on how to improve your marketing. So again, check those out if you want to. So that's me in a nutshell. The company that I work for, I always like to show this screen because there are two fundamental things that we believe in that underpin our brand and underpin the relationships that we have with the schools and the academies that we deal with. But the reason that I mention it when I'm talking about marketing to you guys is that I believe these two things that underpin how we operate are actually the most important things that you can get ready right at the front end of your journey towards making sure that you're effective in the way that you talk about yourselves. The first one we call another thing the remarkable. So from our point of view, that's a commitment we make to clients to make sure that we understand who they are, what they're about, what's their nature and their character. What is it that parents value in a school, for example? What is it that the constituent schools of a multi-academy trust value in the trust? And the second thing is basically all about producing results. Now, if I was to be asked what are the biggest mistakes that schools and trusts make when they're marketing, I would say that they don't represent themselves well enough. They're not representing who they are. They're not winning the hearts of the minds of the people that they're trying to talk to, and they're not focusing on producing results. So often they don't really know what it is that their marketing should be achieving, and if you don't know that, it's never going to do it. So they're the two things that I think are fundamental, but I'm actually going to talk around 3 different topics today. So I wanted to just question, why is this whole thing relevant? There are still lots of trusts that we chat to that really haven't particularly considered the effectiveness of their marketing. I think the advent of the white paper and lots of the things that Chris has spoken about this afternoon make it even more important that we start to get a handle on that. And since the white paper came out, basically we've been busier and busier talking to MATs about how they get some control over that. I would normally chat a little bit about the landscape, but I think Chris has done a brilliant job of explaining what that landscape looks at. I think the most important thing is this strong and viable MAT, whatever that definition is and however that might change, most of us don't meet it. We're not there. So there is going to be lots and lots of MATs that are looking to develop, to grow, and to attract more schools into their trust. So it's even more important that we're able to compete in that landscape. Okay, so what is the role that marketing and communications can play? As I say, I'm going to talk to you about 3 things. The first one I'm going to talk about is your trust brand identity. I'm not going to spend too long talking about that because any of you who have seen me talk at these events with Clive, Owen before will have heard me talk about it lots. And if you've attended any of those online events, again, you'd have heard about that. But we'll just skip through some of that because it is really important that we get it right. The second thing I'm going to talk about really lends itself back to some of the stuff that Chris has already been chatting about, and that is, how do we start to plan for that growth? What is that strategy going to be? So the government is saying they don't want this incremental growth. They don't want 1 or 2 schools every now and again. We want this strategy. We want a plan to how you're going to do that. So we're going to chat about how you can go about thinking about that area. And then I want to talk about, believe it or not, websites, which is quite strange because I've always preached that when I first started doing this role, when I joined with David sort of 6 years ago to start working with schools, whenever I started talking to schools about marketing, all they thought I was talking about was a website, because that's what school marketing was. However, I do want to talk about websites because where we are at the moment, this environment that we're in, and this motivation that we've got to build and develop and grow our trusts, gives us a great opportunity to start thinking about getting some management around this. Websites within schools are a bloody nightmare, and there's no other way I can put it. They're awful. There's loads of things that are just a complete mess, and we need to start thinking about planning and strategizing how we put that together. So we will talk about websites and how you can start thinking about how a website can support that growth and what it should actually do. Okay, so a quick recap for any of you who've heard me speak before. You will be sick of the phrase unearth the remarkable, because I say it all the time, but it's effectively really important. So what we're talking about here is getting a handle on your brand, understanding who you are, and making sure that the way that you talk about yourselves, the way that you present yourselves to the outside world, reflects what is remarkable about you as a trust. So by remarkable, we're talking about what makes you different, what makes you tick, what is your brand character. Are you giving potential schools a reason to choose your trust over another? It's that simple. You probably understand all of the reasons why a trust should join your trust and not another trust. My job is to make sure that that is actually made clear to those schools and to explain to you how you do that. Okay, very quickly, just so as we understand what we're talking about, what is a trust brand? We're not just talking about your logo and the colours that you use or your strapline. We're talking about this experience that a customer, whoever that customer might be, has of your school or of your trust. Your brand is that experience. Your brand is reflected in everything that you do. So not just the obvious things, the logo and how it's consistently used, your website and your prospectus, and all those things that you think about when I mention the word communications, but also the not so obvious things, the way that the phones are answered in your school, the welcome that you get at your school office, how your open days are conducted, the fabric of your school, student attitudes and behaviours and how they operate. It's everything. Your brand is in everything that you do. So what I want you to think about is what is remarkable, and I always get trusts to sit and literally grab a piece of paper and just write that out. A short phrase, a single word, just something that explains what's remarkable about us. If I was at school looking to join our trust, what would I want to know as that first impression? What's the most important thing? And if we're talking about a school, then what is it that parents would want to know? What makes us tick? And then look at the way that you communicate at the moment, and is that being reflected? Because if this hasn't been considered, probably not. And it's the first step towards making sure that it's effective. I mentioned the masterclasses that I run. If any of you want some more information about that, because I appreciate that I've skipped through that really quickly, I do an hour and a half online masterclass course on your brand identity. So we'll work through how you can start to put that together and think about the way that you can present your trust. Loads of hints, tips and guidance. I do it every month, and anybody's free to attend. It's completely free. We also, as a business, have reacted really from these sorts of events, and when I talk at these events, I got lots of feedback that was, where do we start with that? We recognise that we probably haven't got a handle on our brand, but it seems like such a big project to get involved with. How do we actually start to do it? So we've effectively put a product together that helps you do it, and to make sure that everything you do from that point onwards will be on brand and will be effective. So it's making sure that when we talk about the strategy and the plan, and if you put together some trust brochure, for example, or you're redesigning your trust website, you know what that should be talking about. You know what it should look like. You know how it should present your trust. It includes lots of things. We take you through a whole process whereby we'll break down what you are and who you are, and then we'll put it back together visually. Just to give you an idea, it's important to recognise the difference between a marketing strategy and a marketing plan. So the marketing strategy is understanding how the trust is positioned, who is our target audience. It's understanding from this point, we are going to attract primary schools within 10 miles of our trust that are 2-form entry, etc., etc. It's understanding what they look like and what that route to market is going to look like. And it informs your marketing messaging. Understanding who you're talking to and who you want to attract informs the way that you're going to talk and the way that you're going to put yourselves out there. The plan, on the other hand, is essentially the nuts and bolts of how you're going to achieve that. So it's very specific, it's very tactical in its nature, and it will outline literally what you are going to do. We are going to place an advert in the local paper. I don't suggest you do that, by the way. Okay, so the marketing plan is the missing link between that strategic direction that the trust is going to take and the delivery of those results. Understand where we want to get to, and then put a plan together to make sure that we hit it. It's the glue that connects everything together, and make sure that the activity you're doing that's taking place is to the right audience, at the right time, and through the right channels. Okay, I wanted to give you 5 more reasons why your marketing plan is critical to your trust. And actually, if we weren't talking about marketing a trust, and we were talking about marketing a commercial organisation, or a business, or a shop, or a pub, this would be the same. It's exactly the same theory that we would put in place for marketing any commercial organisation. We are a business. That's what we do. So the first reason is that your marketing plan is going to provide focus. And this, what I want to try and do here is to give you an idea of just how this has an influence on the effectiveness of your trust-wide effectiveness, effectively. Marketing plan ensures all activities that are taking place are basically going in the right direction. So it stops those things happening that I've said there, following the CEO's latest ideas, because at times it seems that's what happens. So the CEO will decide, I've just seen another trust that's taken on a secondary school and it's worked really well for them. That's what we should do. And it's a quick decision because the CEO thought it was a good idea, and we're all going to start trying to attract that local secondary school in the local area. And it's not part of a plan. It's not our strategy. It wasn't something that we've all discussed. So your plan is something that you stick to and you go back to all the time. It helps you manage your resources. So most of the trusts that we work with don't have a strategy or a plan when we first meet with them. They don't have a budget set aside, and they don't have anybody that is focusing on marketing. By putting a plan together, it's going to become really obvious to you if you have the capacity to do what you're telling everybody you're going to do and that you're going to achieve. And more often than not, you'll find that you probably don't have that capacity. Clear marketing strategy and plan in place. You understand what sort of budget you need and what you're going to have to do in order to deliver it. Your plan provides transparency. So this is about making sure that when you spend the money, you're able to recognise how effective it's been. So if you've got a plan and you say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to invest that money, and then you measure that effectiveness so that you know next year whether you should spend that money again in that area or whether you'd be better off spending money somewhere else. So we're looking for measurable metrics, and that's the whole part of having a plan together. So you can test and measure over regular periods of time how effective your investment is being. So yeah, you're making decisions about what you're doing moving forward. This is really important, that consistency is really important to the way that you're going to market your trust. We want to make sure that there's a consistency in both the message that you give, but also the way that it's being presented, and also clarity. So this is about making sure that everybody within your trust is on board and understands the journey that you're on. So that transparent communication about your vision, about your strategy, about where you want to take the trust over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, by 2030. What is that going to look like? And how do they contribute to it? We talk about this a lot with schools, and schools understanding that every single member of staff plays a part in the marketing of their school and making sure that parents get the right impression of the school. And it's exactly the same with your trust. So, planning is everything, and I would suggest that you have an audit of where you are at the moment that is in line with what your plans are. So we're looking at what is the success and capacity and sustainability of your trust. What's the ability of your trust to fulfill those strategic aims? We will put that together for you. It's cost of £3,990 to do it. And following on from that, we'll create that strategy and plan that will guide your investments in your marketing. It will guide what you do moving forward. And again, that has the same cost associated with it. Okay. That's the second thing I wanted to talk to you about, was that planning and strategy. And I now want to move on to websites. Really interesting topic. Okay. There are tons and tons of challenges and frustrations that I hear all the time from multi-academy trusts to do with their websites. We find that as you grow, obviously you're taking on schools and they've got their own website provider, and then you take on another school who's got a completely different website provider, and over time you develop this internal system where you've got 3, 4, 5 different suppliers of websites within your multi-academy trust. There is absolutely no economy of scale. There's a lack of control that you've got centrally. It's difficult to train staff within the trust because you've got so many different systems happening. In no other area would you look to implement 5 different systems to do the same thing within your schools. Most of us, not all trusts, but most of us are looking at centralising services and centralising, getting that economy of scale from what we do. And it creates a real duplication of work. So when you're looking to distribute information around those systems, you've got so many different ways that information has to be put out there. There's no central support contract, so nobody really knows who's supporting each website. And that will cost the trust more money in the long run because you've got different contracts running at different times with different terms and conditions. No one company is looking after those strategic aims that you've got. So really, there's a missed opportunity there in that your website system should all be working together to help you achieve what you're trying to do. It's difficult to manage your trust brand across lots and lots of different school sites. I've just brought up this example. This is Harbour Learning Trust. Sorry, it's gone a bit mad. So this is Harbour Learning Trust and sites within their trust. And what you'll notice is, firstly, the websites all look very, very different because they've all been brought in from different suppliers, which isn't a massive problem, really. They don't all need to look the same. We're not necessarily looking for very commercially looking websites. But if you look at how the trust is being represented, here we've got Harbour Learning Trust. Here we've got the trust with a strapline underneath. Here we've got the logo without a strapline. It doesn't appear at all here. It appears again there without a strapline. It doesn't appear on that website. So in terms of the recognition of the strength of the trust and the schools that are part of it, it's not doing that job for it. So you look at the difference between the Trust website, where there's been an investment in the layout, we've got some key messaging, we've got these calls to action, and then you look at the site of one of their schools where there is none of that present. If you're honest and you look at that website, we could be looking at any school. There's nothing really that's telling me anything about Woodlands Academy or why I should send my child to that school over and above any other school. There's no key messaging there. I don't know what Woodlands Academy stands for. I don't really know as a parent what I should now do if I want to inquire or send my child to the school. They are not signposting my journey, and all of that has been missed because it's a random website provided by a random supplier. Oh, excuse me. Some more of those challenges and frustrations are that we find that websites become out of date. We find all of these stories from schools that say, well, we can't update our website because a member of staff has left, or we want to update it, but every time we want to do it, the company's going to charge me £500 to put the updates on. So we get all of these websites that go out of date and are a bad advert to the Trust. You also find this cycle of rebuilding school websites. Every 5 years, it gets so bad that you invest in a new website, you spend the money to rebuild it, and for a short period of time at least, it's brilliant and it works and it's what you want. And then slowly but surely it deteriorates and becomes something that is a pain and doesn't get updated. What that means is that your websites are not adapting to the changing needs of your Trust and your schools. What I mean by that is, your website was designed 3 or 4 years ago. How can it possibly be doing what you need it to do now if it's not being updated in those ways? So we need something that is reactive and is going to change to the changing challenges that you face as a Trust or a school. And just that lack of marketing, the websites that we look at from schools, they're rarely designed to achieve those strategic aims around admissions and recruitment for the schools. So again, Woodlands Academy, as I said, where do I go as a parent? This website is forcing me to start searching around its menu system and finding out where I should go. And how do I inquire? Is there an open day? What should I be doing as a parent? What we want is to tell the parent where to go immediately. Something on here with some key messaging on and a great big call to action button that drives me into an admissions process. So all of a sudden now the school, I guarantee this school has no idea who the people are that are visiting its website. They visit their website and they disappear, and they might visit 4 other schools and they may or may not inquire to the school. What we need to do in order to make sure that we're getting the admissions we need is to know who those people are. Only by knowing who that parent is can we interact with them as a school. Could we send them an email and a friendly, personalised message from the head teacher? Can we invite them in for a tour of the school? Can we effectively get them into an admissions process where we can convert them into a bum on a seat in September? And it's really simple. It's just a website. It would cost you no more money to have a website that was doing that was signposting a parent. It's the same investment. It's just understanding what you want it to do. What is that result that you're after? That strategic plan, basically. We find that schools are ending up tied into long contracts, some ridiculous get-out clauses. You've got to send us a letter on a Tuesday when it's raining and there's 17 months notice before we'll let you out of your... It's bloody awful, half of them. Huge costs to amendments and updates. It's really hard because you've got websites all over the place to make sure that they are compliant. Compliance is actually really simple. There's not a huge amount that Ofsted need from your website, and it should be a simple thing, but it can cause this great big headache for trusts who panic and come to us really worried that they're not sure that their websites are compliant. And if you do end up deciding that you're going to choose a single supplier, what it means is that you take one of the suppliers of the many that you've got and you ask them to redesign all of the websites in your trust. And of course, they're going to charge you to do that. So there's this massive cost involved in getting everything together and getting you into a position where it works. So with all of that feedback coming at us, we developed a system called Plato. Plato is a trust-wide multi-website system. So the idea behind Plato is it's completely customizable. It's flexible and it grows with your trust. You do not pay anything to have a Plato website designed and built, ever. No upfront cost. You just start paying a rental for 1 school, 3 schools, 20 schools, 100 schools. It doesn't matter. For every school that you include on Plato, you make a monthly payment. Everything is included in that monthly payment. Anything you ever want to do to that website, any amends, any changes that you want to make are included in that monthly cost. So you know as a trust what your budget is for your websites from now and forever. And every time you bring a school in, you know that it's an extra £115 a month, whatever that charge is. You can add additional schools at any time. You literally pick up the phone and say we have a new school coming in, and they will have a website designed and built and up and running within a few weeks on your system. No additional hosting or license costs, and we have a full video suite of training for all of your staff. And remember, it's the same system that is central in your trust and is in the satellites around in your schools, exactly the same system. Everybody's working the same way. What's really nice about Plato, there's some nice features about it. One of them, again, comes from lots of feedback that we get with trust, with frustrations they've got, and it's central document distribution. So you can have central trust administration staff, and you can also have your school staff. And on the Plato system, this person has access to your trust website and every other website in the school, or if you want, you've got somebody that's got access to 2 schools or 3 schools, as many schools as they need. This person can update any information on any website centrally. These people can update information that you decide to give them access to. If you're the central trust administrator and you need now to distribute a new policy, what used to happen previously is that you would create that policy and you'd send a PDF document to everybody in each school that updates their website. You would hope that they update their website, and then you'd make phone calls to make sure that it happened. What you do now is you sit at your desk, you update the PDF onto the central system, and you hit send, and it appears on every single website within your system. If you want it to. And if you only want it on 2 websites, that's where it goes. And if you want it on 7 websites, that's where it goes. It's really, really simple to do. Completely take the headache away from schools. So if you put yourself in the position now where you're talking to a new school joining the trust, this is something that they will really like you to talk to them about, because they bloody hate websites. They are a pain. So if you can take that headache away from them, it's that addition to the package that you're offering to a school. Your site will be reviewed by us professionally every year. There's no additional cost for that, but what we're doing is we're looking at your site from a branding and from a marketing point of view. So we will be talking to you on a regular basis, and we'll be looking at your website to make sure that it is still meeting your strategic aims and needs. And if it isn't, we will change it. We will amend it and redesign it so that it does. And that costs nothing at all. That's included in your rental. What we want is that your website never needs to be rebuilt. It's organic and it develops with you over time. There's a full product roadmap, so we're constantly developing that website. No long contracts. Apart from the first 12 months, you can cancel Plato at any time. So you can just say you don't want it anymore and we'll turn it off. So you've not got to ring us on a Tuesday when it's raining and give us 17 months notice. Full compliancy testing, so not just for the structure of your website, but if you want us to compliancy test all of your policies and everything that's written in there, we can do that as well. There is an additional cost to that, by the way. So just to give you some idea, £100 per month for a central mat site, or for any school up to 450 pupils, and £115 a month for any school over 450 pupils. So most primary schools really should be in that first bracket. Not all of them, admittedly. And most secondary schools probably in the second bracket. Really, really simple. No additional costs for any changes that we make. I also run a masterclass on Essential School website. So we've got the Brand Identity Masterclass. I'm running the How to Grow Your Multi-Academy Trust Using Marketing and Communications. That's a mouthful. I'm doing that in collaboration with John Brennan, and the Essential School website masterclass. All of them are completely free, loads of hints and tips and free advice for you.